4 minutes. That's all the time Ava Mercer had between pouring coffee and becoming a killer again. In a forgotten diner on the edge of nowhere, a waitress with a buried past faces an impossible choice: hide like she's always done, or step into the darkness one final time. When dozens of armed men storm in to execute a crime lord, the clock starts ticking. But they don't know who else is in the room, they don't know what she's capable of, and they won't see her coming. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The coffee was shit. Ava knew it. The truckers knew it. Even the cook knew it. And he'd been making the same pot since 1987. But at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday, nobody came to Mel's Diner for quality. They came because the lights were on, the door was open, and the world outside had gotten too quiet to bear alone. She poured another cup for the guy in booth 3, some salesman with tired eyes and a wedding ring he kept spinning on the table. He didn't look up, didn't say thanks, just stared at his phone like it held answers to questions he was afraid to ask. Ava moved past him without a word. She'd learned a long time ago that silence was easier than small talk. Safer, too. The diner wasn't much. 12 booths, a counter with 8 stools, and a jukebox that only played songs from before she was born. The floor was checkered black and white, scuffed in places where decades of boots had worn through the pattern. The neon sign outside flickered every few seconds, casting red shadows through the windows. She'd worked here for 8 months, long enough that people stopped asking questions, short enough that nobody really knew her name. Well, her real name. Ava, you got table 7? That was Gina, the other waitress, mid-50s, bleached hair, 2 ex-husbands, and a Marlboro habit she refused to quit. She was good people, the kind who didn't pry. Ava glanced toward booth 7. The man sitting there didn't belong. He was alone, which wasn't unusual, but everything else about him screamed wrong. The suit was too expensive, the watch too clean. His hands rested on the table, perfectly still, perfectly calm, and his eyes, they moved. Constantly. Scanning exits, tracking movement, calculating angles. Ava had seen men like him before. She'd killed men like him before. Yeah, I got it, she said. She grabbed the pot and walked over, her sneakers squeaking slightly on the linoleum. As she approached, the man looked up. His face was weathered but handsome, late 40s maybe, with salt and pepper hair and a scar that ran just below his left ear. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Coffee? Ava asked. Please? She poured. He watched her hand. Steady, controlled. Most people didn't notice things like that. He did. Anything else? She asked. Not yet. His accent was faint. Spanish, maybe. South American. Just the coffee for now. She nodded and turned to leave. You work here long? She stopped, turned back. Long enough? Good place to disappear, he said quietly. Her pulse didn't change, her expression didn't flicker. But inside, something cold slid down her spine. Depends what you're running from, she replied. He smiled again. This time, it was almost genuine. Fair enough. She walked away. Gina was refilling napkin dispensers at the counter. He tip yet? Hasn't ordered yet. Guys like that always tip big or not at all, Gina muttered. No in between. Ava didn't respond. She was too busy watching the clock on the wall. 2:17 a.m. The street outside was empty. No cars, no movement. Too empty. She set the coffee pot down and moved toward the window, casual, like she was just checking the weather. The streetlights buzzed overhead, casting orange pools on the cracked pavement. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Nothing else. Then she saw it. A panel van, parked half a block down, dark, unmarked. The kind of vehicle that didn't want to be noticed. Her stomach tightened. Gina, she said softly. Go take your break. What? Now. Something in Ava's voice made Gina stop mid-sentence. The older woman looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in 8 months, she saw something in Ava's eyes that made her take a step back. Okay, Gina said slowly. Okay, hun, I'll be in the back. She disappeared through the kitchen door. Ava turned back to the window. The van's side door slid open. Men poured out. Not a few, not a handful, dozens. They moved with the kind of synchronization that only came from training, Real training, the kind governments paid for. Black tactical gear. No insignias. Weapons low but ready. Ava's heart rate kicked up. Not panic, just preparation. Her body remembering rhythms she'd tried to forget. She glanced at booth 7. The man, Marco, she'd heard someone call him earlier on a phone call, was still drinking his coffee. He hadn't noticed yet. Or maybe he had, and he was just waiting. Hard to tell with men like him. The first of the armed men reached the diner door. Ava moved behind the counter, quick and quiet. Her hand found the underside of the register, where she'd taped a knife on her second day. Just in case. The blade was 4 inches, ceramic, invisible to metal detectors. Old habit. The door chimed as it opened. 3 men entered first. They didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Their weapons did the talking. Compact submachine guns, suppressors attached, fingers off the triggers but close. Professional. The salesman in booth 3 looked up. His face went white. "Everyone stay calm," the lead man said. His voice was flat, emotionless. Eastern European accent. Nobody moves, nobody dies. More men flooded in behind him. They fanned out, covering angles, sealing exits. 2 moved to the kitchen door. 3 positioned themselves by the windows. 1 stayed at the entrance, blocking the only way out. Ava counted 12 inside. That meant at least 8 more outside. 20 total, give or take. For 1 man. Marco set his coffee down slowly. He didn't look surprised, didn't look scared. He just looked tired. "Victor," he said quietly. One of the men stepped forward, older than the rest, maybe 60, with silver hair and eyes like frozen steel. He carried himself differently, not just trained, but experienced, battle-worn. This was a man who'd seen war and decided to stay. "Marco," Victor replied. His voice carried the weight of history. "It's been a long time." "Not long enough." Victor smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You knew this was coming." "I'd hoped you'd retired." "Men like us don't retire. We just delay the inevitable." The salesman in booth 3 started to stand. One of the gunmen stepped forward and pressed the barrel of his weapon against the man's temple. The salesman froze, hands shaking. "Sit," the gunman said. He sat. Ava watched it all from behind the counter. She could feel her old training kicking in, cataloging threats, mapping escape routes, calculating odds. It was automatic, like breathing. 8 months of pouring coffee and pretending to be normal, and her body still remembered exactly what to do. She didn't want it to remember, but it did. "This doesn't need to be complicated," Victor said, walking slowly toward booth 7. "You come with us quietly, we leave these people alone." "And if I don't?" Victor shrugged. "Then we kill everyone in this room and drag you out anyway. Your choice." Marco looked around the diner. His eyes passed over the terrified salesman, the trucker who'd gone pale and silent, the cook who'd frozen in the kitchen doorway. Then they landed on Ava. For just a second, their eyes met, and in that second, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or understanding. The kind of silent acknowledgement that only existed between people who'd lived in the same shadows. He knew. Somehow, he knew what she was. Marco stood slowly, hands visible. "All right, Victor, you win. Let's go." Victor nodded to his men. 2 of them moved forward, weapons trained on Marco. They were going to cuff him, Ava realized, secure him before extraction, standard protocol. But something was wrong. She could see it in Victor's eyes, the way he glanced at his watch, the way his jaw tightened. This wasn't an extraction. This was an execution, and it was going to happen in the next 60 seconds. Ava's hand tightened on the ceramic blade under the counter. Every instinct screamed at her to stay hidden, stay small, stay invisible, like she'd been doing for 3 years. It had kept her alive. It had kept her sane, but it had also kept her hollow. She thought about the last time she'd made a choice like this. 11 years ago. A different city, a different name, a different version of herself. She'd watched then too. Watched and done nothing while people died because she was too afraid to step into the light. She'd survived that night. But she'd never forgiven herself. Victor raised his weapon. Not quickly, deliberately, like a man performing a ritual he'd done 100 times before. Marco didn't flinch. He just closed his eyes. Ava moved. Her hand shot out, grabbing the edge of the industrial light switch panel behind the counter. The diner's electrical system was old, analog, the kind where one switch controlled everything. She'd noticed it her first week, filed it away. She slammed the switch down. The world went black. For a fraction of a second, there was only silence, confusion, the sudden absence of light in a room full of armed men, then chaos. Ava was already moving. She vaulted over the counter, blade in hand, her body remembering movements she'd drilled thousands of times. In the darkness, she was a ghost, silent, invisible, lethal. The first gunman never saw her coming. She came in low under his weapon and drove the ceramic blade up through the soft tissue beneath his jaw. He dropped without a sound. She caught his weapon as it fell. SMG, suppressed, 30 rounds. Good weight, familiar. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness. Wild, panicked shots from men firing at shadows. Ava stayed low, moving between the booths, her eyes adjusted faster than theirs. She'd trained for this. They hadn't. A shape moved to her left. She fired twice. Center mass. The figure crumpled. "Light!" someone shouted. Victor's voice. "Get the fucking lights!" Two men rushed toward the kitchen, where the backup breaker was. Ava was faster. She came around booth 4 and put 3 rounds into the first man's legs. He went down screaming. The second man spun toward the sound. Too slow. She shot him in the throat. The darkness was her element now. She moved through it like water, reading the chaos by sound and shadow. Footsteps to her right. She fired. A shape against the window. She fired. A voice calling coordinates. She fired. One by one, they fell. Victor's men were good, but they were fighting blind. Ava wasn't. She knew every inch of this diner. Every booth, every table, every corner. She'd memorized it all without realizing why. Maybe part of her had always known this moment would come. "Focus fire on the counter," Victor's voice cut through the chaos. "Pattern suppression." They opened up, raking the counter area with sustained bursts. Bullets chewed through metal and wood, shredding the coffee pots, demolishing the register. But Ava wasn't there anymore. She was behind them. She dropped 2 more from the rear, clean headshots in the strobing darkness. A third spun toward her and she put him down with a burst to the chest. The remaining gunmen started to break. She could hear it in their voices, fear replacing training, survival instinct overriding discipline. "Fall back," someone shouted. "Fall back to the—" Ava cut him off mid-sentence with a controlled burst. He fell across booth 2, his weapon clattering to the floor. Victor's voice again, closer now. "Everyone out, now!" They started to retreat, firing blindly behind them. Ava let them go, the ones heading for the door. She wasn't trying to kill them all. Just enough. Just enough to make them understand that coming here was a mistake. The door chimed as the survivors fled into the night. She heard shouting outside, engines starting, the squeal of tires. Then silence. Ava stood in the darkness, weapon raised, controlling her breathing. Her heart hammered, but her hands were steady. Blood roared in her ears, but her mind was clear. She waited. 30 seconds. A minute. 2. Nothing. They were gone. She moved to the light switch and flipped it up. The fluorescent lights flickered back to life, buzzing and uncertain. The diner looked like a war zone, bullet holes stitched across the walls, shattered glass everywhere. Bodies sprawled in unnatural positions. 7 down, maybe 8. She'd lost count. Marco was still standing in booth 7, hands against the wall where he'd dropped when the shooting started. He turned slowly, looking at her with something between shock and recognition. The salesman in booth 3 was curled under his table, whimpering. The trucker had made it to the kitchen. Alive. Gina appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyes wide. "Jesus Christ," she whispered. "Jesus Christ, Ava, what—" "You need to leave," Ava said quietly. Her voice was steady despite everything. "Right now. Out the back. Don't come back tonight." "But, Gina, go." The older woman looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded, grabbed her purse, and disappeared. The salesman scrambled out from under the table and ran for the door, nearly tripping over a body. The cook was already gone. That left Marco. He was still watching her, studying her, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "You know who I am," he said finally. It wasn't a question. Marco Velez, Ava replied. You run the Sinaloa distribution network from Tijuana to Vancouver. You're worth either 300 million or 30 million, depending on who you ask. You've been at war with the Ortega family for 6 years, and Viktor Sokolov just tried to kill you, which means someone paid a lot of money to make sure you didn't leave this diner alive. Marco nodded slowly. And you know all that because… Ava didn't answer. She was looking at the bodies, at the damage, at what she'd just done. The adrenaline was starting to fade, and in its place came something darker, something she'd been running from for 3 years. The person she used to be was supposed to be dead, but here she was, still breathing, still killing. Who are you? Marco asked. Before she could answer, she heard it, a sound that made her blood run cold, slow, deliberate clapping. She spun toward the entrance. Viktor Sokolov stood in the doorway, alone. His weapon was holstered. His hands were empty except for one that was bringing them together in mock applause. Impressive, he said. His eyes were locked on Ava. Very impressive. 7 of my best men, in the dark, without hesitation. He tilted his head slightly. You're not a waitress. Ava raised her weapon. Center mass, finger on the trigger. Viktor didn't flinch. Go ahead. But then you'll never know if I've figured out who you are. She held her aim steady. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? He took a step forward. The way you move. The way you shoot. The way you cleared this room like it was a training exercise. Another step. I've only seen that kind of precision from one unit. One program. Ava's jaw tightened. Project Wraith, Viktor said softly. The Ghost program. 18 operators. Deep cover specialists. Designed to be invisible, untraceable, expendable. His eyes narrowed. They shut it down 7 years ago, burned all the files. Eliminated all the operators. Sounds like they did their job then, Ava said. They thought they did. Viktor was smiling now, but it was a cold, calculated expression. But I was there, you see. Berlin, 2019. The cleanup operation. I was the one they hired to make sure none of the wraiths made it out. Ava's finger tightened on the trigger. I killed 14 of them myself, Viktor continued. Hunted them down one by one. Each one fought well. Each one died anyway. He paused. But there were 4 I never found. 4 ghosts who slipped away. He took another step closer. I memorized their faces, their methods, their patterns. Spent years wondering if they were really dead or just hiding. His eyes locked onto hers. And now, here you are. In a diner in the middle of nowhere, pretending to be nobody. Ava's mind raced. If Viktor knew who she was, what she was, then this was already over. He wouldn't have come back alone unless he had backup. Unless this was, tactical teams are surrounding the building, Viktor said, as if reading her thoughts. 20 men, snipers on the roofs, a PCs blocking the streets. You're very good, but you can't kill us all. Marco spoke from behind her. What do you want, Viktor? I want her to put down the weapon, Viktor replied. I want both of you to come outside quietly, and then we finish what we started. And if we don't? Then we burn this building to the ground with all of you inside. Ava calculated angles. Distance to the door. Time to target. Probability of success. 0. Viktor was right. She couldn't win this. Not conventionally, but she'd never been conventional. Okay, she said quietly. She lowered the weapon. You win. Viktor's smile widened. Smart. Now put it on the… Ava threw the SMG directly at his face. Viktor's instincts kicked in. He batted the weapon aside, going for his holster. Fast. Professional. Not fast enough. Ava had already closed the distance. She came in hard and low, driving her shoulder into his midsection, using his own momentum to slam him against the door frame. His head cracked against the metal with a hollow thud. She had maybe 3 seconds before his team reacted. She used 2. Her hand shot to his holster, yanking out his sidearm. She pressed it against his throat and spun him around, using him as a shield as she backed into the diner. Through the windows, she could see them now, dark shapes moving in the shadows. Weapons trained, waiting for the order. Tell them to stand down, Ava said quietly. Viktor laughed. Actually laughed. Or what? You'll kill me? I'm a dead man already. The moment I failed to deliver Marco, I became expendable. Then you've got nothing to lose by keeping me alive. True. He tilted his head back slightly, looking at her. But I'm curious now. Which one are you? I know you're not Phantom. She died in Prague. Not Shadow either. I put her down in Moscow. That leaves Echo and... His eyes widened slightly. Wraith. The original. The one they named the program after. Ava didn't respond. That's you, isn't it? Victor's voice carried a note of genuine surprise. The first one. The prototype. The one who was so good they built an entire unit trying to replicate you. He shook his head slowly. I thought you'd be taller. Disappointment's mutual, Ava replied. She was scanning the room, looking for options. The kitchen had a back exit, but they'd have it covered. The windows were death traps. The front door was a kill box. She was trapped. Marco had moved behind the counter during the commotion. He was watching the exchange with the kind of calm that came from decades of survival in violent worlds. How much did the Ortegas pay you? Marco asked Victor. Enough? I'll triple it. Not interested. Quadruple. Victor sighed. Money isn't the issue, Marco. This is about reputation. If I walk away now, every cartel, every syndicate, every criminal organization from here to Hong Kong will know that Victor Sokolov failed, that he let his target walk, that he's weak. He paused. I'd rather die than carry that. Noble, Marco said dryly. Practical. Ava felt Victor tense slightly. A signal. He was about to give his team the order to breach. She had to move. Now. Marco, she said sharply. The kitchen. Go. What about... Go! Marco ran. Ava shoved Victor forward hard, using the momentum to drop and roll behind Booth 6 as automatic weapons fire erupted from outside. Glass exploded. Wood splintered. The air filled with the deafening percussion of sustained fire. She came up shooting, putting rounds through the windows toward the muzzle flashes. Someone screamed. Good. Victor was scrambling for cover, shouting orders in Russian. His team was breaching, front and side simultaneously. Military precision. Ava grabbed the edge of booth 6 and heaved. The old furniture toppled, creating a barrier. Not much, but enough. She fired again, dropping one of the breach team as he came through the door. The others scattered, taking cover. A smoke grenade bounced across the floor. Shit. Within seconds, the diner was filled with thick gray smoke. Visibility dropped to 0. They were going to rush her position, overwhelm her with numbers. Standard tactics. She wasn't going to be there when they arrived. Ava went low, crawling beneath the smoke, moving toward the counter. She could hear them coming, boots on broken glass, whispered commands, the click of weapons going hot. She reached the counter and rolled behind it just as the first team swept through her last position. They found nothing. Targets mobile, someone shouted. Watch your sectors! Ava was already moving again, staying beneath the smoke line, using the chaos as cover. She reached the kitchen door and slipped through. The kitchen was small, industrial, all stainless steel and grease. The back door was 30 feet away, between her and freedom. It was also wired with a Claymore mine. She could see it in the red glow of the exit sign, military issue, motion activated. One step through that door and she'd be vapor. Marco was pressed against the wall near the freezer. We're trapped, he said quietly. Not yet. Ava scanned the kitchen. There. Above the stove, a ventilation shaft. Too small for most people. But she wasn't most people. She grabbed a rack of pots and dragged it beneath the vent. Can you climb? Not as fast as you. Then you're going to have to shoot. Buy me 30 seconds. Marco looked at the door, then at her. They're professionals. So am I. She handed him the sidearm she'd taken from Victor. Just keep them back. Don't be a hero. I'm a criminal kingpin hiding in a kitchen. Heroes aren't really my thing. Despite everything, Ava almost smiled. She climbed onto the rack and kicked at the ventilation grate. Once, twice, 3 times. It gave way with a screech of metal. Behind them, the kitchen door exploded inward. Marco opened fire, controlled bursts driving them back. Professional. He'd done this before. Ava pulled herself into the vent. The metal groaned under her weight, but held. She crawled forward, elbows and knees moving fast. Below, she could hear sustained gunfire. Marco was still fighting. The vent turned sharply left, then up. She followed it, climbing vertical shafts using her back and feet for leverage. Her arms burned, her lungs screamed. She kept moving. The vent opened onto the roof, a rusted grate that she kicked free. She pulled herself out into the cold night air. The city spread out before her, lights in the distance, empty streets below, and snipers on the adjacent rooftops. She counted 3 positions, maybe more she couldn't see, all with angles on the roof. Below, the gunfire had stopped. Either Marco was dead or he'd surrendered. Ava moved to the edge of the roof and looked down. 20-foot drop to the alley. Survivable, but she'd be exposed during the fall. The snipers would cut her down before she hit the ground. She needed a distraction. Her hand found the ventilation grate she'd kicked free. Heavy, metal, about 12 pounds. It would have to do. She picked it up, judged the weight, then hurled it as far as she could toward the opposite end of the roof. It clattered and skidded loud in the silence. 3 red dots immediately tracked toward the sound. Ava jumped. She hit the alley hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Something in her shoulder screamed in protest, but nothing broke. She came up running. Behind her, shouts. Orders being barked. The snipers had figured it out. She sprinted down the alley, staying tight to the walls. A bullet sparked off the brick near her head, too close. She turned the corner just as another round punched through the air where she'd been. The streets were a maze. She knew them better than they did. 8 months of late-night walks, memorizing routes, planning escapes she'd hoped never to use. She ran. 3 blocks. 5. 7. Her lungs burned. Her shoulder throbbed. Behind her, engines roared. They were mobilizing, hunting. She ducked into a parking garage, keeping to the shadows. Found a 10-year-old Honda with duct tape on the window. Security through poverty. 30 seconds later, she was in, hot wiring the ignition. The engine coughed to life. She pulled out slowly, no lights, keeping it quiet. Out of the garage, down side streets, away from the sirens and the searchlights. 10 minutes later, she was on the highway, just another car in the sparse late-night traffic. She drove for an hour before pulling into a rest stop. Her hands were shaking now, delayed adrenaline, shock setting in. She gripped the steering wheel until they steadied. Then she allowed herself to think about what had just happened. Victor knew who she was, which meant others would know soon. The Wraith program was supposed to be erased, forgotten, buried under so much classified paperwork that it might as well have never existed. But it had existed. She had existed. And now the ghosts were coming back. She thought about Marco, hoped he'd made it out, doubted he had. She thought about Gina, about the diner, about 8 months of pretending to be normal. That was over now. She pulled out the burner phone she kept taped under the driver's seat. 1 number programmed, emergency only. She dialed. It rang 4 times before a voice answered. I was wondering when you'd call. I need a cleanup, Ava said. How bad? Worst case. A pause. Are you compromised? Completely. Location? Moving. I'll send coordinates in 20. What happened? Ava closed her eyes. I stopped hiding. Another pause. Longer this time. Welcome back, Wraith, the voice said finally. Let's get you home. The line went dead. Ava sat in the stolen Honda, watching the highway lights blur past, and realized something. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't running from who she was. She was running towards something else entirely. The safe house was in Reno, buried in a neighborhood where people minded their business and asked no questions. Ava arrived at dawn, the stolen Honda wheezing its last mile before she abandoned it 3 blocks away. Her shoulder had stiffened during the drive, and every breath sent a spike of pain through her ribs. She'd taken worse hits. Didn't make it hurt less. The house looked like every other one on the street. Beige siding, dead lawn, windows with curtains that never opened. She went around back, found the key under the 3rd flower pot from the left, and let herself in. The interior was sparse. A couch, a table, a refrigerator that hummed too loud. And sitting at that table, drinking coffee like she had all the time in the world, was a woman Ava hadn't seen in 3 years. You look like shit, the woman said. Thanks, Sam. Samantha Cross was 52, built like a runner, with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She'd been Ava's handler during the Wraith program, the only handler who'd survived the purge, mostly because she'd seen it coming and disappeared 6 months before the axe fell. How bad is it? Sam asked. Ava moved to the sink and ran cold water over her hands. They were scraped raw from the climb through the ventilation shaft. Viktor Sokolov knows who I am, what I am. He had 20 men. I dropped maybe 8 of them. The rest scattered. Victor's still breathing? Last I saw. Sam cursed quietly. That's a problem. No kidding. He'll report up the chain. Once the broker finds out a wraith is still active, every intelligence service and criminal organization in the Northern Hemisphere will be looking for you. The broker. Ava hadn't heard that name in years. The phantom middleman who'd orchestrated the wraith program's termination, selling out his own operators to the highest bidders. Nobody knew his real identity. Nobody had ever met him face to face. And nobody had ever touched him. There's more, Ava said. She turned off the water. Marco Velez was the target. I got him out of the kill zone but lost him during extraction. If he's still alive, he knows what I can do. The cartel boss? Yeah. Sam leaned back in her chair. So you've got an assassin who wants you dead and a crime lord who knows your skill set. Any other disasters you want to share? Ava sat down across from her. I killed in front of witnesses. A waitress I worked with for 8 months. She saw everything. Will she talk? She's terrified, but yeah, eventually. Sam was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she stood and walked to the window, peering through the curtains at the empty street. You were supposed to stay buried, Ava. That was the deal. You disappear, I keep you off the grid, and nobody has to know Wraith survived. I know. So what happened? Ava thought about the moment she'd made her choice. The second before she'd killed the lights and stepped back into the darkness. I got tired of hiding. That's not good enough. It's the truth. Sam turned to face her. The truth is you had PTSD after Berlin. The truth is you watched your entire unit die and barely made it out yourself. The truth is you swore you'd never kill again because every time you did, you saw their faces. I still see their faces. Then why do this? Why throw away 3 years of safety for some gangster you don't even know? Ava met her eyes. Because I was pouring coffee when I should have been stopping it. Because I stood there calculating exit strategies while men with guns walked in to murder someone. Because for 8 months I've been playing dead and pretending that's the same as being alive. It's called survival. It's called cowardice. The words hung between them. Sam's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or disappointment. So what now? Sam asked finally. You want back in? Want me to activate old protocols, set you up with new cover? I want to know if Marco Velez made it out. Why? Because if Victor has him, he's dead. And if he's not dead, he owes me his life. Sam frowned. You're thinking about leverage. I'm thinking about resources. Victor won't stop. The broker won't stop. If I'm going to survive what's coming, I need allies. Marco Velez isn't an ally. He's a liability with a $300 million operation and more enemies than friends. Then he'll understand what I'm dealing with. Sam walked back to the table and sat down. She pulled a laptop from her bag and opened it, fingers moving across the keys. Give me an hour. I'll run the networks, see if there's chatter about what happened at the diner. What about you? Ava asked. This puts you at risk too. I've been at risk since the day I signed on to run the Wraith program. One more fire won't make much difference. Ava watched her work. This woman who'd trained her, guided her, kept her alive through missions that should have been suicide runs. Sam had never asked for gratitude, never wanted recognition. She just did the work because someone had to. Thank you, Ava said quietly. Sam glanced up. Don't thank me yet. We might both be dead by next week. While Sam worked, Ava moved to the bathroom and examined her injuries in the mirror. Her shoulder was already bruising, deep purple spreading across the muscle. Her ribs were tender but not broken, cuts on her hands, scrapes on her knees. Nothing serious, nothing that wouldn't heal, but her eyes looked different. For 3 years they'd been dull, empty, the eyes of someone going through motions. Now there was something else there, a spark, anger maybe, or purpose. She'd forgotten what it felt like to have purpose. She cleaned the cuts, wrapped her shoulder, swallowed 4 ibuprofen dry. When she came back out, Sam was staring at her laptop screen with the expression of someone reading bad news. What? Ava asked. Marco's alive. That's good. He's in custody. Federal agents picked him up 3 blocks from the diner. He's being held at a secure facility pending transport to a supermax. Ava processed that. He surrendered? Looks like. They found him walking down the street with his hands up. No resistance. Why would he do that? Sam scrolled through something on her screen. Because Victor's contract is still active. As long as Marco's in the wild, he's a target. But if he's in federal custody protected by the U.S. government, Victor can't touch him without starting a war. Smart. He's not stupid. Ruthless, yes. Connected to half the drug trade in North America, definitely. But not stupid. Sam looked up. There's something else. The FBI is putting together a task force. They know what happened at the diner wasn't random. They're looking for a woman matching your description. How close are they? Not very. The witnesses were traumatized. Descriptions are vague. But they know someone with advanced training was involved. They'll start pulling federal databases, looking for discharged operators, special forces personnel with the right skill sets. They won't find me. No, but they'll find anomalies, patterns. Eventually someone will notice that a waitress named Ava Mercer appeared out of nowhere 8 months ago with a background that doesn't quite add up. Ava sat down heavily. How long do I have? A week, maybe 2 if we're lucky. And Victor? Sam's expression darkened. That's the real problem. I've got sources in the contract killer community, don't ask. And the word is Victor's putting together a new team. Bigger, better equipped. He's calling in favors from Moscow to Johannesburg. He's obsessed. You embarrassed him, killed his men, made him look weak in front of Marco. For someone like Victor, that's worse than death. Sam closed the laptop. He won't stop until one of you is dead. Then I need to get to him first. With what? You've got the clothes on your back and a stolen handgun. Victor's got money, resources, a network spanning 3 continents. I've got you. Sam smiled, but it was tired. I'm a 60-year-old woman with arthritis and a drinking problem. Not exactly an army. You were the best handler in the program. We're being the operative word. Ava leaned forward. I need to see Marco. Absolutely not. He's in federal custody. You can't just walk into a secure facility and, I can if you help me. Sam stared at her. You've lost your mind. Marco knows something about Victor, about why the Ortegas hired him specifically. There's history there, and I need to understand it if I'm going to survive. So call him, send a message, don't march into a federal building. They'll monitor his calls, screen his mail. If I want real information, I need to talk to him face to face. Sam stood and paced the small room. Even if I could get you in, and that's a massive if, what makes you think Marco will talk? He doesn't owe you anything. I saved his life. You also destroyed his favorite diner and got him arrested. He surrendered to stay alive. That means he's scared. Scared people talk. Sam stopped pacing. But this is insane. Probably. You could get caught, identified, locked up in the same facility you're trying to infiltrate. I know. And if the broker finds out you're active, he'll send everything he has. Not just Victor. Everyone. I know that too. Sam looked at her for a long moment. Then she sighed and sat back down at the laptop. I hate you. I know. If we do this, and I'm not saying we will, you'll need new documents, clean background, a reason to be there that won't raise flags. What are you thinking? Sam's fingers were already moving across the keys. Marco's lawyer is a woman named Elena Vasquez. Works out of Los Angeles, handles high-profile cartel cases. She's good, expensive, and extremely protective of her clients. I can't impersonate a lawyer. They'll check credentials. Not Elena, her assistant. Sam pulled up a photo. A young woman in her late 20s with dark hair and professional attire. Sofia Reyes. Been with Elena for 2 years, low-level clearance, but enough to get into client meetings. What happens when the real Sofia shows up? She won't. She's on vacation in Cancun. Won't be back for 5 days. Sam glanced up. I can create a duplicate access badge, forge the paperwork, but you'll have one shot at this. Maybe 20 minutes before someone notices an irregularity. 20 minutes is enough. It better be. Ava watched Sam work, building a cover identity from nothing. Fake credentials, backdated emails, a paper trail that would hold up to cursory inspection. It was the kind of work that took years to learn and seconds to execute if you knew the right systems. "Why are you doing this?" Ava asked. "Really, you could walk away. Let me handle this alone." Sam didn't look up from the screen. "Because I trained 18 operators for the Wraith program. 18 people who trusted me to keep them safe. And when the purge came, I wasn't able to save any of them." She paused. "Except you. So yeah, this is probably stupid and definitely dangerous, but I'm not losing you too." 3 hours later, Ava walked into the federal detention center carrying a leather briefcase and wearing a suit that fit too well for someone who'd spent the last 3 years pouring coffee. Her hair was pulled back, makeup carefully applied. The ID badge hanging from her neck read Sofia Reyes, Legal Assistant. The guard at the front desk barely looked at her. "Here for?" "Marco Velez. Attorney-client meeting." He checked his computer. "Vasquez is already on the approved list. You got ID?" She handed over the forged badge. He scanned it, frowned slightly, scanned it again. Ava's pulse kicked up, but her expression stayed neutral. "System's slow today," the guard muttered. He handed it back. "Sign in here. Leave your phone in the locker. No electronics past this point." "Understood." She signed the log with a signature she'd practiced 50 times that morning. The guard buzzed her through. The facility was exactly what she expected. Concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, the smell of industrial cleaner trying to mask something worse. She followed the signs to the attorney meeting rooms, walking with the confident stride of someone who belonged. A female guard met her at the security checkpoint. "Arms out?" Ava complied. The guard patted her down, professional, thorough. Found nothing because there was nothing to find. She'd left the weapon in the car. "Room 3, the guard said. 15 minutes. "I was told 20. Schedules changed. 15. Ava nodded and walked to room 3. It was small. A table, 2 chairs, a camera in the corner with a blinking red light. She sat facing the door and waited. 3 minutes later, Marco Velez walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked tired, but uninjured. His eyes found hers and widened slightly. The guard who'd escorted him gestured to the chair. 15 minutes. Knock when you're done." The door closed. They were alone. Marco sat down slowly, never breaking eye contact. "You're not Sophia." "No." "Elena doesn't know you're here." "No." "And yet you walked into a federal facility using forged credentials to see me." He leaned back. "That's either very brave or very stupid." "Little of both." He smiled, but it was tight. "I assume you want something." "Information." "About?" "Victor Sokolov. Why the Ortegas hired him specifically. What history you two have." Marco's smile faded. "That's dangerous information." "I'm in a dangerous situation. Because you saved my life. Because I revealed myself saving your life. Now Victor knows what I am, and he won't stop until I'm dead. So yes, I saved you, and now I need you to help me survive what's coming." Marco studied her face. "What are you exactly? You fight like special forces, but no military operator moves like you did. That was something else. Does it matter?" "It does if I'm going to tell you things that could get us both killed." Ava considered her options. She could lie, deflect, maintain operational security like she'd been trained, but she needed him to trust her, and trust required truth. "I was part of a program," she said quietly. "Deep cover operations, specialized infiltration and elimination. They called us Wraiths because we were supposed to be invisible, untraceable." "Supposed to be?" "The program was shut down 7 years ago. Everyone involved was eliminated to prevent exposure. I survived by disappearing, stayed hidden until last night." Marco absorbed that. "And Victor? He was the cleaner, the one they hired to hunt down the surviving operators and make sure we didn't talk." "How many of you were there?" 18. I'm the only one left." The room was quiet except for the hum of the ventilation system. Marco looked at the camera in the corner, then back at her. "If I tell you what you want to know, you'll be walking into something you can't walk away from." "I'm already there." He nodded slowly. "Victor and I go back 20 years. Before the cartels, before the contracts. We were both soldiers once, different armies, same war. Chechnya, 2004. Things got complicated. How complicated? The kind that ends with half a village dead and both sides blaming the other. Marco's voice was flat, emotionless. Victor was Spetsnaz. I was with a private military contractor. We were supposed to secure a supply route. Instead, we walked into an ambush. Civilians got caught in the crossfire. And? And Victor did something I've spent 20 years trying to forget. He executed the survivors, men, women, children, said it was necessary, said it was clean. Ava felt something cold settle in her stomach. You tried to stop him. I did stop him. Put 3 rounds in his chest, left him for dead. Marco's jaw tightened. Obviously that didn't work. He survived. He always survives. That's his gift and his curse. Marco leaned forward. The Ortegas didn't just hire Victor to kill me. They hired him because they knew it would hurt. Because Victor doesn't just kill his targets. He destroys them. Slowly, methodically. He makes it personal. Why does he hate you that much? Because I'm the one thing in his life he couldn't control. The one loose end he couldn't tie up. For 20 years he's been waiting for a chance to finish what I started. And now he has it. Now he has it. Marco paused. But you changed the equation. You embarrassed him, made him look weak. That's worse than anything I ever did. Ava glanced at the camera again. How much of this is being recorded? All of it. But attorney-client privilege means they can't use it unless I waive it. You trust that? Not even a little bit. He smiled grimly. But what choice do I have? The door opened. The guard stuck her head in. Time's up. We need more time, Ava said. You got 15 minutes. You used 15 minutes. Let's go. Marco stood. One more thing, he said quietly. Victor has a weakness. He's obsessive. Once he locks onto a target, he can't let go. It's what makes him dangerous, but it's also what makes him predictable. How does that help me? Because if you can make him chase you, really chase you, he'll make mistakes. And when he makes mistakes, he's vulnerable. The guard stepped between them. Let's go, Velez. Marco was halfway to the door when Ava spoke. Why did you surrender? He paused, looked back at her. Because running only works if you have somewhere to run to. And I ran out of places a long time ago. His eyes met hers. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't wait until you're trapped before you decide to fight. Then he was gone. Ava sat alone in the room for 30 seconds, processing everything. Then she stood, knocked on the door, and the guard let her out. She made it through security, past the front desk, out into the parking lot. Her car was where she'd left it. No alarms, no arrests, clean exit. Sam was waiting 2 blocks away in a different vehicle. Ava got in without a word. Well? Sam asked. Victor's personal. This isn't just a contract, it's revenge. Great. That makes him even more dangerous. Or more predictable. Sam pulled into traffic. What did Marco tell you? Ava recounted the conversation. Chechnya, the massacre, Victor's survival. Sam listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. So Victor's not just an assassin, Sam said finally. He's a zealot, the kind who'll burn everything down to prove a point. Which means we can use it against him. How? By making him come to us, on our terms, in a place where we control the variables. Sam shot her a look. You want to bait him. I want to end this, one way or another. That's suicide. It's the only play we have. Ava turned to face her. Victor won't stop. The broker won't stop. If I keep running, eventually they'll catch me. But if I turn and fight, if I make them come to me, I've got a chance. A slim chance. Better than none. Sam drove in silence for several minutes. Then she sighed. All right, say we do this. Say we set a trap. Where? How? You need weapons, supplies, backup. I need you to find me a location. Somewhere isolated, defensible. Multiple exits. That's a tall order. You've done harder things. Not at 62 with arthritis. Despite everything, Ava almost smiled. What about contacts? Anyone from the old days who might help? Sam's expression shifted. There's one person. Maybe. But he's expensive, unpredictable, and hasn't returned my calls in 4 years. Who? James Chen, former NSA analyst. Specialized in signals intelligence and electronic warfare. If anyone can track Victor's movements and scramble his communications, it's him. Will he help? If the money's right, and if I can convince him this won't get him killed. What are the odds of that? The money part or the not dying part? Both. Sam smiled thinly. We'll find out. They drove through Reno as the sun climbed higher, the city waking up around them. Normal people doing normal things, going to work, getting coffee, living lives that didn't involve assassination contracts and buried pasts. Ava watched them through the window and felt nothing. No envy, no longing, just acknowledgement that she'd never been one of them. Not really. What are you thinking? Sam asked. That I've been running for 3 years and I'm tired. That's not a plan. No, but it's a start. Sam pulled into a diner parking lot, different from Mel's, cleaner, more corporate. We need to eat, and we need to plan, in that order. They went inside, ordered breakfast, sat in a booth by the window. Here's what we know, Sam said quietly, keeping her voice low. Victor's assembling a team. The broker's watching. Marco's in federal custody, but not safe. You're exposed and on limited time before law enforcement connects the dots. And we've got no money, no weapons, and one maybe contact who might help if we're lucky. Right. Sam picked at her eggs. So our situation is completely hopeless. When you put it that way, how else should I put it? Ava looked out the window at the parking lot, at the cars coming and going, at the world that kept moving whether she was part of it or not. We need leverage, she said. Something Victor wants more than he wants me dead. What could possibly... Sam stopped, her eyes widened. No, absolutely not. It's the only thing that makes sense. You want to use Marco as bait. He's already bait. We'd just be controlling when and where Victor makes his move. Sam put down her fork. Marco's in federal custody. You can't just extract him. Why not? I got in to see him. That's not the same as breaking him out, isn't it? No, it's exponentially harder, more dangerous, and guaranteed to put every federal agency in the country on your tail. Ava met her eyes. You got a better idea? Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then she cursed softly and pulled out her laptop. I can't believe I'm considering this. But you are considering it. Only because every other option is worse. She opened the computer. Give me 48 hours. I'll reach out to Chen, see if he can provide technical support. I'll also start mapping the facility, guard rotations, security protocols, weak points. What about weapons? I've got a cache in Boulder. Old equipment from the program days. Not much, but better than nothing. And after we get Marco? Then we pick our battlefield and wait for Victor to come to us. Sam looked up from the screen. This is crazy. You know that, right? I know. We're probably going to die. Probably. And yet you're smiling. Ava realized she was. Just slightly. I'm not running anymore. That's worth smiling about. Sam shook her head but couldn't quite hide her own smile. You always were the crazy one. Takes one to know one. They finished eating, paid in cash, walked back to the car. As Sam started the engine, Ava's burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without speaking. A voice came through, distorted, mechanical. You've been busy, Wraith. Her blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who's been watching for a very long time. Someone who thought you were dead. Someone who's very interested to learn otherwise. The broker. Ava's hand tightened on the phone. Sam was watching her, alarm in her eyes. What do you want? Ava asked. The same thing I've always wanted. Order, control, the elimination of loose ends. The voice paused. You're a very expensive loose end, Wraith. Multiple parties are willing to pay substantial amounts to ensure you don't become a problem. Victor failed. Victor's contract was personal, amateur. I'm offering something much more efficient, which is a choice. You have 72 hours to disappear, permanently, leave the country, change your face, become someone new. In exchange, I'll call off the contracts. All of them. You'll be free. And if I don't? The voice on the phone grew colder. Then I'll send everyone, every asset, every operator, every killer from here to Hong Kong, and they won't stop until you're erased from existence. The line went dead. Ava lowered the phone slowly. What? Sam demanded. What did they say? 72 hours. Then everyone comes. Sam's face went pale. Everyone? Everyone. They sat in the parking lot, engine running, both understanding exactly what that meant. The clock had just started ticking, and when it ran out, the real war would begin. Sam didn't speak for the first 20 miles. She just drove, hands tight on the wheel, jaw set. Ava watched the desert roll past outside the window. Endless brown and scrub brush punctuated by billboards advertising casinos and injury lawyers. Finally, Sam broke the silence. 72 hours isn't enough time to disappear. Not properly. I know. Even if we had the resources, new documents, plastic surgery, complete identity rebuild, it takes weeks, months if you want it done right. I'm not disappearing. Sam's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. Then you're choosing suicide. I'm choosing to fight. Against everyone? Ava, do you understand what the broker just threatened? He's not talking about Victor and a team of mercs. He's talking about coordinated strikes from multiple organizations, Russian mafia, triads, cartels, every criminal enterprise that owes him favors. You can't win that fight. Probably not. Then why? Because running didn't work. Ava's voice was quiet but firm. I spent 3 years hiding, being nobody. And the second I stepped back into the light, they found me anyway. So what's the point? I run again. They find me again. I keep running until I'm old or dead or too tired to care which comes first. Sam pulled off the highway at a rest stop. She parked far from the other cars and killed the engine. For a long moment, she just sat there, staring through the windshield. I trained you to survive, she said finally. Taught you to think 3 steps ahead, to always have an exit strategy, to never engage unless you had overwhelming advantage. Everything I taught you says you should take the broker's deal. And everything you taught me also says that deals with people like him don't last. He'll let me run for 6 months, maybe a year. Then he'll decide I'm still a liability and send someone anyway, or he'll sell my location to the highest bidder, or he'll just get bored. Ava turned to face her. There's no real out here, Sam. Just delayed execution. Sam closed her eyes. I hate that you're right. So help me make it count. How? We've got no money, minimal weapons, and 72 hours before the entire criminal underworld descends on us. We've got more than that. We've got me. We've got you. And we've got the one thing they're not expecting, which is? We've got Marco Velez sitting in federal custody, and every killer looking for me knows that if they want to finish what Victor started, they need to go through him first. Sam opened her eyes. You really want to break him out? I want to make them think I'm going to. I want every asset the broker has watching that facility, waiting for me to make my move. And while they're all focused there, I'm going to do something else. Like what? Like go after the broker himself. Sam actually laughed. It was a short, harsh sound. The broker? The man nobody's ever met? The ghost who's orchestrated Black Ops deals for 3 decades without leaving a trace? Nobody's that good. Everyone makes mistakes. Not him. That's the whole point. He survived this long by being perfect. Then we make him imperfect. Ava pulled out her burner phone. He called me, which means he's monitoring my communications, tracking my location, maybe even listening right now. Sam's eyes widened. You think? Ava held up a hand. Doesn't matter. What matters is he reached out directly instead of going through intermediaries. That's ego. And ego creates patterns. What kind of patterns? The kind we can trace. Ava scrolled through the call log. When I worked for the program, we had people who specialized in finding ghosts. Signals intelligence analysts who could track a phone call through 17 proxy servers and still nail down a geographic region. You're talking about Chen. I'm talking about exactly the kind of person who can help us find the broker before the 72 hours are up. Sam was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled out her own phone, an encrypted satellite model that probably cost more than Ava's car. James Chen is paranoid, expensive, and doesn't work with people he doesn't trust. But he trusts you. He trusted me. Past tense. We haven't spoken since Prague. She dialed anyway, putting it on speaker. It rang 6 times before a voice answered, This number is no longer in service. James, it's Sam. A pause. I said this number is, I know what you said. I also know you're listening. And I know you're running facial recognition on security cameras near wherever you think I'm calling from right now. Another pause. Longer this time. Then a different voice came through, younger, with a slight accent Ava couldn't quite place. Sam Cross, the handler who left 18 operators to die. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I helped design the surveillance protocols that track those operators. I watched them get hunted down one by one because someone sold them out. And you just disappeared. I survived. While everyone else died. Not everyone. Sam glanced at Ava. I've got one of them sitting next to me right now. The line went silent. Ava could hear what sounded like typing, rapid fire, professional. Impossible, Chen said finally. All wraiths were confirmed KYA. I saw the reports myself. The reports were wrong. They had DNA confirmation, dental records, photographic evidence of… Faked, Sam interrupted. All of it. One operator survived by staying off the grid completely, and now she needs help. More typing. Which one? The original. Wraith Prime. The typing stopped. You're lying. Ava leaned toward the phone. Berlin, 2019. The safe house on Kantstrasse. You were the one who flagged the electronic surveillance 30 minutes before the hit team arrived. You saved my life, and didn't even know it. Silence. James? Sam prompted. Where are you? His voice had changed, less hostile, more careful. Reno, moving soon. How compromised? Completely. Viktor Sokolov ID'd her. The broker called personally. We've got 72 hours before every killer from here to Hong Kong comes looking. Chen cursed in what sounded like Mandarin. And you called me because we need to find the broker before the deadline. That's insane. That's the job. I'm retired. So was I, Ava said. Didn't take. Another long silence. Then, what do you need? Sam smiled slightly. Signal analysis on a phone call. The broker contacted Ava directly. We need to trace it back to source. That'll take time, and equipment, and money. How much? More than you have. James? No, listen. The broker routes everything through multiple encrypted channels. Military-grade security. Government-level protocols. Even if I could trace the call, it'd take days. Maybe weeks. We don't have weeks. Then you're screwed. Ava spoke up. What if we gave you something to narrow it down? Geographic region, time window, pattern analysis from previous communications. What previous communications? Nobody talks to the broker directly except… Chen stopped. Wait, you're saying this isn't the first time he's called you? No, but it's the first time since Berlin. How many calls total? Ava thought back. 4, maybe 5. All in the month before the purge. And you remember the dates? Most of them? Most isn't good enough. I need exact timestamps, locations, any background noise or identifying features in the calls. Sam looked at Ava. Can you do that? Ava closed her eyes, pulling up memories she'd tried to bury. The first call had been in Prague, 3 weeks before everything fell apart. She'd been in a hotel room, watching the street below. The broker's voice had been different then, less mechanical, more human. He'd warned her about a compromise in the network, told her to stay dark. She'd thought he was trying to help. Prague, she said. October 3rd, 2019, 11:47 p.m. local time. Hotel room. Background noise included street traffic and what sounded like a church bell. Chen was typing again. Okay, next one. Berlin. October 19th, 2:30 a.m. I was in the safe house. No background noise. The connection was crystal clear. That's useful. What about the third? Frankfurt. October 28th, morning. I was at a train station, lots of crowd noise, announcements in German. And the fourth? Ava hesitated. Amsterdam, November 1st. That was the last one before everything. Time? Evening, maybe 8 or 9. I was by the canals. Chen was quiet for a moment. That's good. That's actually very good. If I can cross-reference those locations with signals traffic from those dates, filter for encrypted communications matching the broker's known patterns, I might be able to narrow down a probable operating region. How long? Sam asked. 24 hours. Maybe less if I get lucky. We need it faster. You need a miracle. I'm offering 24 hours. Take it or leave it. Sam looked at Ava, who nodded. We'll take it. Where do we meet? You don't. I work remote. Safer that way. James, we're going to need more than data. We're going to need tactical support. Not my department anymore. It never was your department. That's why you're perfect for it. Chen sighed. What kind of support? Electronic warfare, surveillance, disruption, communications blackout for a target area. You want me to blind the broker's network? Just long enough for us to get close. That's suicide for me too, you know. The second he realizes someone's jamming his systems, he'll trace it back. I'll be dead within the hour. Not if we're hitting him at the same time. He can't defend and attack simultaneously. You're assuming he can't multitask. I'm assuming he's human, Ava said, and humans make mistakes when they're under pressure. Chen laughed, but it sounded more like a cough. You really think you can kill the broker? I think I can make him bleed. That's enough. It's not enough. Not even close. Then help me make it enough. The line was quiet. Ava could hear Chen breathing, thinking, weighing odds. All right, he said finally. 24 hours for the trace. After that, we reassess. But I'm not promising anything beyond data. Fair enough? And Sam? If this goes sideways, if the broker figures out I'm involved, I'm disappearing. You won't hear from me again. Understood. One more thing. The girl sitting next to you, Wraith Prime, is she as good as the stories say? Sam glanced at Ava. Better. Then maybe you've got a chance after all. The line went dead. Sam lowered the phone. He'll come through. He always does. You trust him? With my life, which is good because that's exactly what we're doing. They got back on the highway, heading east. Sam had a destination in mind but wasn't sharing it yet. Ava didn't push. She was busy running scenarios, calculating variables, trying to figure out how to turn certain death into improbable survival. The math wasn't encouraging. Tell me about the cache in Boulder, she said. It's a storage unit, climate-controlled, registered under a shell company that doesn't exist anymore. I've been keeping equipment there since the program ended. What kind of equipment? Weapons, ammunition, surveillance gear, fake documents, cash, everything I could salvage before they purged the safe houses. How much cash? Enough to stay mobile for 6 months, maybe a year if we're careful. We won't have a year. I know. Sam changed lanes to pass a semi. But if we survive the next 72 hours, it'll be useful. Ava's phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She answered without speaking. You're making a mistake. Victor's voice. Calm. Almost gentle. Which one? Thinking you can run. Thinking you can fight. Thinking you can win. Thanks for the advice. I'm serious. The broker doesn't make empty threats. In 72 hours, this world becomes very small for you. Why do you care? Because I want to be the one who kills you, not some hired contractor who doesn't understand what you are. Victor paused. You're Wraith Prime, the legend. The one who trained all the others. You deserve better than being gunned down in a parking lot by some amateur. That's almost sweet. It's professional respect, nothing more. Then respect this. I'm not running. If you want me dead, you're going to have to work for it. Victor laughed. I was hoping you'd say that. Makes this interesting. Where are you? Close. I've been following you since you left Reno. Ava's pulse spiked. She glanced at the mirrors, 3 cars back, a black SUV. You see me? Victor asked. I see you. Good. Then you know I could end this right now. 1 shot through your windshield. Clean. Simple. But you won't. No, because that would be wasteful, and because I want to see what you do next. Sam was watching Ava, alarm in her eyes. Ava put a finger to her lips. What do you want, Victor? I want you to understand something. The broker's offer, 72 hours to disappear. It's not mercy. It's theater. He wants to watch you run, wants to see if you'll break. And when you don't, when the deadline expires, he'll unleash everything, and it will be glorious. You're enjoying this. I enjoy excellence, and watching you fight for your life, that will be excellent. You're sick. I'm honest, there's a difference. The line went quiet for a moment. I'm going to let you go now. Let you plan. Let you prepare. And in 72 hours, when the world comes for you, I'll be watching. And when everyone else fails, when you're tired and bleeding and ready to die, I'll step in. And I'll finish what I started 20 years ago. You mean what Marco started? Victor's voice went cold. Marco made a choice in Chechnya. So did I. The difference is, I'm still making choices. He's in a cell. Not for long. You think you can extract him from federal custody? You really are crazy. Crazy works. Sometimes, but not this time. You're one person, Ava. No matter how good you are, you can't fight everyone. Watch me. Victor laughed again, but this time there was genuine warmth in it. I look forward to it, truly. See you soon. The line went dead. The black SUV pulled off at the next exit. Sam exhaled slowly. He's been following us this whole time? Probably since we left the safe house. And he didn't take the shot because he wants a show, wants to prove he's better than everyone else who'll come for me. That's insane. That's Victor. Ava watched the exit shrink in the side mirror. But it also gives us something. What? Time. If he's holding back, if he's waiting for the deadline, that means we've got 72 hours of relative safety. He won't move until the others do. Relative safety from one psychotic assassin while we prepare to fight hundreds of others. Great. It's better than nothing. Sam didn't argue. She just drove faster. They reached Boulder by evening. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town, one of those sprawling complexes with hundreds of identical units and minimal security. Sam parked at the far end, away from cameras. Stay in the car, she said. I'll get what we need. I'm not sitting here while you're exposed, burned. Every camera, every facial recognition system in the country is looking for you. The less you're seen, the better. Ava wanted to argue but couldn't. Sam was right. Sam disappeared into the rows of storage units. Ava sat in the car, watching the sun drop behind the mountains. The sky turned orange, then purple, then dark. Stars came out. The parking lot emptied. 20 minutes later, Sam returned carrying 2 duffel bags. She loaded them into the trunk without a word, then got back in the car. Everything there? Ava asked. Most of it. Some things degraded, but we've got enough. Enough for what? Enough to make them regret coming after you. Sam started the engine. Now we need a place to work, somewhere isolated, defensible. You have somewhere in mind? Maybe. There's an old cabin about 60 miles north. Used to be a program safe house. They decommissioned it after Berlin, but never demolished it. Too remote. Too expensive to bother. Will it be monitored? Probably not. But even if it is, we don't have better options. They drove north into the mountains. The roads got narrower, darker. Eventually, Sam turned onto a dirt track that barely qualified as a road. Branches scraped the car's sides. The suspension complained over every rut. Finally, the cabin appeared. A small structure built from logs and neglect. No lights, no signs of life. Sam parked behind it, out of sight from the road. They grabbed the duffel bags and went inside. The interior was exactly what Ava expected. Dusty furniture, a fireplace full of old ash, windows that hadn't been cleaned in years. But it was solid, defensible, and most importantly, off the grid. Sam dropped her bag and pulled out a battery-powered lantern. Soft light filled the room. "Home sweet home," she muttered. Ava unzipped her bag. Inside were weapons, pistols, rifles, ammunition, tactical gear, communication equipment, everything they'd need for a war. She picked up a Glock 19, checked the magazine, racked the slide. It felt good in her hand, familiar, like seeing an old friend. "How long has it been?" Sam asked. "Since I held a gun? 3 years. Think you're rusty?" Ava aimed at a spot on the wall, tracking an imaginary target. Her hands were steady, her breathing controlled. "No." Sam pulled out her laptop and satellite phone. "I'm going to set up communications, see if Chen's made any progress." "What should I do?" "Get familiar with the weapons, run drills, remember how to be Wraith instead of a Waitress." Ava spent the next 2 hours doing exactly that. She field-stripped every weapon, checked every mechanism, loaded and unloaded magazines until the movements became automatic. She ran dry-fire drills in the cramped space, practicing draws and target transitions. She tested the tactical gear. body armor, night vision, communication headsets. By the time she finished, her shoulder was screaming and her hands were shaking from muscle fatigue, but she felt more like herself than she had in 3 years. Sam looked up from her computer. Chen sent an update. He's narrowed the broker's probable location to a 300-mile radius in Eastern Europe, possibly Poland or Czech Republic. That's still huge. It's better than nothing. He's running deeper analysis now, says he'll have something more specific by morning. Ava sat down on the floor, back against the wall. And if he doesn't? Then we focus on survival instead of offense. That's not a plan. No, but it's realistic. They sat in silence for a while. The cabin creaked around them. Wind moved through the trees outside. "Sam?" Ava said quietly. "Yeah?" "Why did you really help me? After Berlin? You could have left me to die with the others, saved yourself the risk." Sam was quiet for a long time. "You remember the first time we met? Vienna, 2014. You were recruiting for a classified program. You were working hotel security, completely wasted in that job. But I watched you handle a situation, some drunk guest getting aggressive with staff. You didn't escalate, didn't use excessive force. You just controlled it perfectly. And I thought, that's what we need. Not someone who goes in guns blazing, someone who thinks first. And now? Now I think I was right. You're the best operator I ever trained, the best I ever knew. And if there's anyone who can survive what's coming, it's you." Sam looked at her. "But more than that, you're the only one who deserves to. The others, they were good, professional. But you always had something extra, conscience, the ability to question orders, to choose when to fight and when to walk away. I didn't walk away in Berlin. No, you stayed and fought, and that's why you're still alive." Ava's phone buzzed. She checked it expecting another threat from Victor. Instead, it was a text from an unknown number. "Federal facility compromised. Marco extracted. Status unknown." She showed it to Sam. "Who sent this?" Sam asked. "No idea. Could be a trap. Or someone on the inside helping us." "Why would someone help us?" Before Ava could answer, the phone rang. Same unknown number. She answered. "Who is this?" "Someone who owes you a favor." The voice was female, professional. "Marco Velez was extracted from federal custody 40 minutes ago. 6 men, professional team. They killed 4 guards and wounded 6 more." "Where did they take him?" "Unknown. But it wasn't official. This was black ops, private contractors." "Who hired them?" That's the interesting part. The team leader's comms were still active when they left. "I intercepted a transmission. They're taking Marco to Viktor Sokolov." Ava's blood went cold. "Victor?" "Apparently he wants them both, you and Marco, together." "Why?" "No idea, but he's set up somewhere in the Nevada desert, abandoned mining facility. I'm sending coordinates now." The phone chimed. A GPS location appeared. "Why are you telling me this?" Ava asked. "Because what happened at that diner, what you did, saved 3 lives. One of them was my sister. She was the cook." The woman paused. "Good luck, Wraith. You're going to need it." The line went dead. Sam was already on her laptop, pulling up satellite imagery of the coordinates. "It's real. Old copper mine. Shut down 15 years ago. Perfect place for an ambush." "Or a trap." "Definitely a trap." Sam looked up. "But if Marco's there, if they're using him as bait, we can't just ignore it. You want to walk into an obvious trap with 70 hours left on the broker's deadline? I want to control the terms of engagement. And right now, Victor's giving us an opportunity. He wants a confrontation. Let's give him one." Ava stared at the coordinates on the screen. "This is crazy." "You said crazy works. I also said I was probably going to die." Sam smiled grimly. "Then let's make it count." They loaded the weapons into the car, gathered ammunition, gear, everything they'd need. The clock on Ava's phone read 11:47 p.m. 68 hours until the deadline. 68 hours until the world came for her. But first she had an appointment with an old enemy. And she wasn't planning to be late. The Nevada desert at night was a different kind of darkness. Not the soft black of forests or the gray murk of cities, but an absolute void punctuated only by stars that felt close enough to touch. Sam drove without headlights for the last 10 miles, using night vision goggles and muscle memory to navigate terrain she'd probably scouted years ago. Ava sat in the passenger seat, weapons across her lap, running through the plan for the 20th time. It wasn't a good plan, barely qualified as the plan at all, but it was what they had. 2 miles out, Sam said quietly. You ready? No. Good. Means you're thinking clearly. They'd gone over the satellite imagery until Ava could navigate the mine complex blindfolded. The main entrance was a killing field, wide open approach, no cover, perfect sightlines for anyone with a rifle. The ventilation shafts were too narrow. The old rail tunnels had collapsed. That left one option, the drainage system. A network of concrete channels built to divert flash floods away from the mine. Most were blocked now, clogged with decades of debris. But Sam had found one that looked clear enough to crawl through, clear enough being relative. You sure about this? Ava asked as Sam pulled off the road. Nothing about this is sure, but it's our best shot. They got out. The desert air was cold, biting through Ava's tactical gear. She could see the mine in the distance, dark structures silhouetted against darker sky. No lights, no movement. Either Victor was running a professional operation or the place was completely empty. Neither option was comforting. Sam popped the trunk and they geared up in silence. Body armor, extra magazines, communication headsets. Ava strapped a suppressed pistol to her thigh and slung a compact rifle across her back. Sam carried less firepower but more equipment, signal jammers, night vision, medical supplies. Chen came through, Sam said, checking her phone one last time. He's got partial control of the area's cellular network. Won't stop everything, but it'll slow Victor's communications. What about the broker's deadline? 66 hours left, plenty of time. You're a terrible liar. I know. Sam pocketed the phone. But we're doing this anyway, so might as well pretend we'll survive. They moved across the desert on foot, staying low, using scrub brush for cover. The drainage channel appeared as a dark slash in the earth, a concrete trench about 4 feet wide, angling down toward the mine complex. Sam knelt at the edge and clicked on a red-filtered flashlight. The beam revealed exactly what Ava expected: trash, mud, the occasional dead animal. And about 200 yards of crawling through it. Ladies first, Sam said. Age before beauty. I'll remember that when I'm writing your eulogy. Ava dropped into the channel. The concrete was slick with something she didn't want to identify. She started forward, rifle held close, moving in a low crouch that made her shoulder scream in protest. Sam followed, her breathing harsh in the confined space. They moved slowly. Every sound echoed. Every scrape of boot on concrete felt like a gunshot. Ava counted her steps, matching them against the distance they'd measured. 100 yards, 150, 175. The channel opened into a larger junction where 3 drainage lines converged. The ceiling was higher here, maybe 6 feet. Ava could stand if she bent slightly. Sam checked her GPS. We're directly under the processing facility. There should be a maintenance access about 20 feet ahead. They found it, a rusted ladder leading up to a hatch. Ava tested the first rung. It held. She climbed slowly, one hand on the ladder, one on her pistol. The hatch was locked from above. Of course it was. She pulled out a pry bar and wedged it into the gap. Applied pressure. The metal groaned but didn't give. She tried again, harder this time, putting her full weight into it. The lock sheared with a crack that sounded impossibly loud. Ava froze, listening. Above, nothing. No shouts, no footsteps, just silence. She pushed the hatch open and pulled herself through. The room was dark, some kind of mechanical space full of old pumps and rusted pipes. She swept it with her weapon, checking corners. Clear. Sam came up behind her, grunting with the effort. I'm too old for this. You said it, not me. They were inside. That was the good news. The bad news was they had no idea where inside. The satellite imagery had shown the surface structures, but the underground sections were a complete unknown. Sam pulled out a handheld thermal scanner and checked the walls. I'm getting heat signatures. Multiple. 2 floors up, northeast quadrant. How many? Hard to say. At least 6. Maybe more. 6 was manageable. Maybe. Depending on their training, their weapons, their positioning. Ava moved to the door and listened. Nothing. She turned the handle slowly and pulled it open an inch. The corridor beyond was empty. Concrete walls, flickering emergency lights that probably ran on backup generators. They moved out, staying close to the walls, weapons ready. The corridor branched. Left went deeper into the complex. Right led towards stairs going up. Ava pointed right. Sam nodded. The stairs were metal, open-backed, the kind that rang with every step. Ava climbed them like she was walking on glass, distributing her weight carefully, moving slow enough that the sound was barely audible. First floor. The heat signatures were one more level up. They kept climbing. Second floor. Sam checked the scanner again and pointed down the hall. Northeast quadrant. 60 feet. They moved through shadows, past rooms full of abandoned equipment. The emergency lights created pools of sickly yellow that they avoided. Better to stay in darkness where night vision gave them the advantage. Voices ahead. Male. Speaking Russian. Ava held up a fist. They stopped, pressing against the wall. Two men came around the corner, both armed with assault rifles, both looking bored. Guard rotation, probably. Walking the perimeter because someone told them to. They passed within 10 feet without seeing Ava and Sam in the darkness. Ava waited until they were 20 feet past, then moved. Silent, fast. She came up behind the first guard and put him in a chokehold, cutting off his airway before he could shout. He struggled for 5 seconds, then went limp. Sam had dealt with the second guard with a taser, less elegant but effective. They dragged the bodies into an empty room and stripped them of weapons and radios. Ava clipped one of the radios to her vest and put in an earpiece. Russian voices crackled through, discussing shift changes and complaining about the cold. "They don't know we're here," she whispered. "Yet." They kept moving. The heat signatures were close now, a large room at the end of the corridor. Sam pulled out a fiber optic camera and slid it under the door. The screen showed what Ava had feared, a makeshift command center. 6 men, all armed, all professional. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair with blood on his face, was Marco Velez. Victor stood next to him, talking on a phone. Sam pulled the camera back. 6 guards plus Victor. Those are bad odds. I've had worse. When? Berlin. You almost died in Berlin. Almost doesn't count. Ava studied the door. It opened inward, heavy, probably reinforced. Breaching it would give them maybe 3 seconds of surprise before the guards responded. 3 seconds to neutralize 7 targets. Impossible. Unless she made it possible. "I need a distraction," she said. "What kind?" "Loud, chaotic. Something that pulls them away from Marco." Sam thought for a moment. "There's a generator room 2 floors down. I could overload it, cause an explosion. Not huge, but enough to make them think the facility's under attack." "How long would that take?" 10 minutes to get there, 5 to set it up, so 15 total. Ava checked her watch. "Go. I'll wait here." "You sure?" "If they move Marco before you're back, I'll have to improvise. I hate when you improvise." "I know." Sam disappeared back the way they'd come. Ava settled into position next to the door, controlling her breathing, listening to the Russian voices on the radio. They were talking about food now, complaining about the quality of their rations. Good. Bored guards made mistakes. 13 minutes later, the lights flickered. The Russian voices on the radio shifted, confusion, then concern. 14 minutes. The lights went out completely. Emergency backup kicked in, but it was weaker, dimmer. 15 minutes. The explosion wasn't huge, but in the confined space of the mine complex, it sounded like the world ending. The floor shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Alarms started screaming. The door burst open. 4 of the guards ran out, heading toward the stairs. Ava let them pass, then slipped inside. 2 guards remained, positioned on either side of Marco. Victor was gone, probably went to investigate with the others. The remaining guards had their weapons up, scanning the room, nervous. The explosion had rattled them. Ava moved along the wall, using the shadows. The emergency lights created blind spots if you knew where to look. She reached the first guard and shot him twice in the head with her suppressed pistol. The rounds made soft pops that were lost in the alarm noise. The second guard spun toward the sound but never saw her. She put 3 rounds in his chest. Both guards dropped. Marco looked up, his face a mess of bruises and dried blood. You actually came. Seemed rude not to. Ava cut his bonds with a knife. Can you walk? Can I run? Probably need to. He stood, wobbling slightly. Victor's insane. Kept asking questions about you. Wanted to know everything. Your training, your methods, your weaknesses. What did you tell him? Nothing useful, mostly because I don't know anything useful. Marco grabbed one of the dead guard's rifles. Where's Sam? Creating chaos. Speaking of which, Ava heard footsteps in the corridor. Multiple sets. Coming fast. She pulled Marco toward the back of the room where another door led to what looked like an office. They went through, locking it behind them. The footsteps stopped at the main door. Voices shouted in Russian. Then gunfire. They were shooting the lock. Window, Marco said, pointing. They ran to it. Outside was a 20-foot drop to broken concrete. You first, Ava said. Marco didn't argue. He smashed the glass with the rifle butt and jumped. The door behind them exploded inward. Ava turned and fired, dropping the first guard through. The second dove for cover. She put 2 rounds in his position to keep him down, then went through the window. She hit the ground hard, rolled, came up with her ankle screaming. Not broken, just sprained. She could work with that. Marco was already limping toward the perimeter. Ava followed, firing behind her at shapes appearing in the window. They made it to a cluster of rusted mining equipment and took cover. Muzzle flashes lit up the building behind them. Rounds sparked off metal, whined into the darkness. Where's your exit plan? Marco gasped. Working on it. Her radio crackled, Sam's voice. Ava, I'm at the vehicle. Where are you? Southwest corner, taking fire. Can you move? Not without getting shot. How many hostiles, Shin? Too many. A pause. I'm coming to you. Negative. Stay at the... The radio went silent. Not dead. Jammed. Ava cursed. She popped up and fired 3 rounds, forcing the shooters back, then grabbed Marco. We move now. Straight line. Don't stop. They ran. Ava's ankle felt like someone was driving nails through it with each step, but she ignored it. Behind them, voices shouted. Engines started. They were mounting a pursuit. Ahead, headlights flared. Sam's car racing toward them across the open ground. She pulled a sliding stop between them and the mine. Get in. They piled into the back. Sam was already moving before they'd closed the doors. Gunfire erupted. The rear window exploded. Marco yelped and ducked. Ava returned fire through the broken window, her rounds punching through the pursuing vehicle's windshield. It swerved and crashed into a concrete barrier. But there were more vehicles. 2 more. No, 3. Sam was driving like a woman possessed, the car bouncing over rough terrain, engine screaming. This is not how I plan to spend my retirement. You're not retired, Ava shouted back. I was trying to be. They hit the access road, and Sam pushed the accelerator to the floor. The pursuing vehicles were newer, faster. They were gaining. Ava leaned out the window and fired at the lead vehicle's tires. Missed. Fired again. The front tire exploded and the vehicle flipped, tumbling across the desert in a cloud of dust and twisted metal. 2 left. They were almost to the highway when the second vehicle pulled alongside. A man leaned out the passenger window with an assault rifle. Ava shot him in the shoulder. He dropped the rifle but didn't fall out. The vehicle swerved, trying to force Sam off the road. Marco grabbed the dropped rifle from the floor and fired through the side window. The burst was wild but effective. The pursuing vehicle's windshield shattered, and it fell back. 1 left. The final vehicle was hanging back now, maintaining distance. Professional. Waiting for a better opportunity. They hit the highway and Sam accelerated into traffic. Not much at this hour, but enough to make a straight shot difficult. The pursuing vehicle stayed with them. They're not giving up, Sam said. Who's driving? Ava asked. Sam checked the mirror. Can't tell, but they're good. Ava knew who it was before Sam said it. Victor. He'd been patient, let his men make the first attempt. Now he was showing them how it was done. The vehicle accelerated, closing the distance. He was going to ram them. Sam, when I say now, brake hard. That's insane. It's the only move we have. Victor's vehicle was 10 feet back, 5 feet. Now! Sam slammed the brakes. Victor's vehicle shot past them, the driver trying to compensate, but going too fast. He managed to avoid crashing, but it gave them space. Sam accelerated again, taking the next exit at 70 miles an hour. They wound through surface streets, Sam taking random turns, doubling back, using every evasion technique she knew. 20 minutes later, they were sure they'd lost him. Sam pulled into an abandoned warehouse district and killed the engine. For a long moment, nobody spoke. They just sat there, breathing hard, coming down from the adrenaline. "Everyone alive?" Sam asked finally. "Define alive," Marco muttered. He was holding his side where blood was seeping through his shirt, not from a gunshot, probably from a cracked rib during the escape. Ava's ankle was swelling inside her boot. Her shoulder felt like it was on fire, and she was pretty sure she had glass in her hair from the exploding window. "We're alive," she said. Sam laughed. It was a harsh, slightly hysterical sound. "We just assaulted a fortified position, extracted a federal fugitive, and escaped from Viktor Sokolov. We're either the luckiest people on Earth or the dumbest." "Can it be both?" Marco asked. Ava's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, expecting Victor. Instead, it was Chen. She answered. "Tell me you have good news." "I have news. Whether it's good is debatable." Chen's voice was tense. "I traced the broker's signal, narrowed it down to a specific city." "Where?" "Prague." Ava felt something cold settle in her stomach. Prague. Where it had all started, where the first warning call had come, where the Wraith program had begun to unravel. "You're sure?" she asked. 90%. The signal patterns match. The encryption protocols match. He's been operating from there for at least 5 years. "Can you narrow it down further?" "I can try, but it'll take time." "How much?" 12 hours. Maybe less. Ava checked her watch. 58 hours until the broker's deadline. "Do it," she said. "And Chen, thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You still have to get there and survive. And somehow kill a man nobody's ever even seen. I've done harder things. Name one." "Berlin." "You almost died in Berlin. Why does everyone keep saying that?" Chen hung up. Ava lowered the phone and looked at Sam. "We're going to Prague." "Of course we are." Sam rubbed her face. "Because why wouldn't we fly into the heart of Europe with every intelligence service and criminal organization looking for you? You have a better idea?" "Several. All of them involve us disappearing to South America and living under fake names until we die of old age. That's not living, that's hiding. Hiding keeps you breathing. Breathing isn't enough." Ava turned to Marco. "You're free. You can walk away from this, disappear. The feds will be looking for you, but with your resources, you can manage." Marco looked at her like she'd suggested he juggle live grenades. "You saved my life, twice. You think I'm just going to walk away?" "It's not your fight. It became my fight the second Victor dragged me into it. And if you're going after the broker, the man who's been orchestrating hits on people like me for decades, then I want in. This isn't about revenge. No, it's about survival. And I'm very motivated to survive." He grimaced, pressing his side. "Also, you're going to need money, resources, access. I can provide all of that." "In exchange for?" "For letting me help end the man who's made my life hell for the last 6 years." Ava looked at Sam, who shrugged. "He's not wrong. We're going to need funds and contacts in Prague. Marco probably has both." "I definitely have both," Marco said. "I've got people in every major European city, safe houses, supply lines, everything you need to operate." Ava was quiet for a moment, weighing the risks. Bringing Marco deeper into this made him a bigger target, but it also gave them resources they desperately needed. "All right," she said finally, "but we do this my way. You follow my lead. No improvising, no cowboy moves. I'm a criminal kingpin, not a cowboy." "The principle stands." Marco smiled despite the pain. "Deal." Sam started the car. "So, Prague. How exactly are we getting there with no passports, no money, and every airport in the country on alert for your face?" "I might have an idea about that," Marco said. "I've got a transport network. Moves product internationally. It can move people too." "How illegal are we talking? Does it matter at this point?" Sam laughed. "Fair enough." They drove through the night, heading east. Marco made calls on an encrypted phone, speaking rapid Spanish to contacts Ava couldn't track. By the time the sun came up, he'd arranged transport out of a small airfield in Kansas. Private cargo plane, he explained, flies medical supplies to Europe. Very legitimate, except for the part where we'll be hiding in a shipping container. Sounds comfortable, Ava said. It's not, but it's untrackable. They reached the airfield at noon. The plane was already there, a mid-sized cargo hauler with faded paint and an indifferent crew who clearly didn't ask questions. The container was exactly as uncomfortable as advertised. 8 feet by 8 feet, insulated but unheated, with just enough room for the three of them and their equipment. They loaded in. The doors sealed. Darkness. The plane took off 20 minutes later. 16 hours to Prague, Marco said in the darkness, assuming we don't freeze or suffocate. Optimism, Sam muttered. I like it. Ava leaned back against the cold metal wall and closed her eyes. 16 hours. Then Prague. Then the broker. 56 hours left on the deadline. She thought about Victor, probably regrouping, calling in reinforcements. She thought about the broker, sitting in his Prague fortress, watching everything, moving pieces on a board only he could see. And she thought about who she'd been 3 years ago, and who she'd become in a diner when the lights went out. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Marco spoke into the darkness. Can I ask you something? Depends what it is. Why didn't you let them kill me? In the diner, you didn't know me, didn't owe me anything. You could have stayed hidden. Ava opened her eyes, staring at nothing. I watched people die once because I was too scared to act. Told myself it was the smart play, the tactical choice. But it wasn't. It was cowardice. And I've been living with that for 11 years. So I was your redemption? You were my choice, and I'm tired of being someone who chooses to hide. Marco was quiet. Then, for what it's worth, I'm glad you made that choice. Ask me again when we're not trapped in a shipping container flying towards certain death. He laughed. Actually, laughed. You know, for someone planning to kill the most dangerous man in the criminal underworld, you're pretty funny. I have my moments. They flew through the night, through clouds and darkness and the thin edge between life and death. And somewhere ahead, Prague waited, the city where it had all begun, the city where it would all end, one way or another. Prague at dawn was exactly as Ava remembered it. Gothic spires cutting through morning fog, cobblestone streets slick with rain, the Vltava River flowing dark and cold beneath ancient bridges. 7 years ago, she'd walked these streets as someone else, working a mission she'd thought would be routine. Now she was back, hunting the man who'd orchestrated her death. The shipping container doors opened to reveal a warehouse on the city's industrial outskirts. Marco's contact was waiting, a thin man with nervous eyes who handed them keys to a van and disappeared without speaking. They loaded their gear and drove into the city proper. Sam was on her laptop in the back, coordinating with Chen. Marco sat in the passenger seat, staring out at the city he clearly knew. I haven't been here since 2018, he said quietly. Had business with some Czech distributors. It ended badly. Most of your business seems to end badly, Ava observed. Occupational hazard. Her phone buzzed. Chen. I've got a location, he said without preamble. The broker's operating from a building in Malastrana. Old Baroque structure, registered as an import-export company. Very legitimate on paper. And in reality, Fortress. I'm reading electronic countermeasures, encrypted communications, the works. He's got serious security. Can you get us building schematics? Already done, sending now. A pause. Ava, you need to know something. I've been monitoring communications networks. Victor's in Prague. Her hands tightened on the wheel. When did he arrive? 4 hours ago. He's got a team with him, at least 12 operators, maybe more. Where? That's the problem. They went dark after landing. No signals, no traces. It's like they vanished. He's hunting, Sam said from the back, waiting for us to make our move. So we've got the broker in a fortress and Victor circling like a shark, Marco said. Fantastic. Ava's phone buzzed again. Different number, unknown. She answered, already knowing who it would be. 36 hours left, the broker's mechanical voice said. You should be running. Instead, you're here, in my city. That's either courage or stupidity. You wanted me gone. I'm here to make that permanent. By doing what? Storming my building? You'll die on the front steps. Maybe, but you'll die too, and that's worth it. The broker laughed. It was a cold, calculated sound. You really think you can reach me? I've survived 3 decades in this business by being untouchable. You're one person. Talented, yes, but ultimately alone. I'm not alone. Sam Cross is 62 and past her prime. Marco Velas is injured and hunted by his own people. And James Chen is a data analyst, not a soldier. That's your army? That's what you think will kill me? It's what I know will kill you. Then come, try. I'll be waiting. The line went dead. Sam leaned forward between the seats. He's trying to provoke you, make you act recklessly. I know. So we don't go in guns blazing, we find another way. There is no other way. He's locked down, secured. The only way to reach him is through the front door. That's suicide. Ava pulled the van into an alley and killed the engine. Then we make it count. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Chen sent detailed schematics, 4 floors, reinforced walls, a single entrance with multiple security checkpoints. The broker's office was on the top floor, corner room with windows overlooking the city. Electronic countermeasures are the real problem, Chen explained over the phone. He's got signal jammers, surveillance systems, automated defenses. The second you breach, he'll know. Can you disable them? Not all of them. I can maybe give you 30 seconds of blackout. Maybe. But after that, you're on your own. 30 seconds is enough to get inside. And then what? Fight your way up 4 floors against professional security? That's the plan. Chen was quiet. You're all insane. Probably. They armed themselves with everything they had left. Weapons from Sam's cache. Ammunition Marco had procured through his contacts. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Here's how this works, Ava said, laying out the plan. Chen gives us the blackout. We breach the front entrance. Sam and Marco stay on the ground floor, hold position, keep the escape route open. I go up alone. Absolutely not, Sam said. You're not going in there solo. I'm the only one trained for this kind of assault. You know it. Marco knows it. This is what I was built to do. You were built to work with a team, with backup, with support. And my team is dead, so I adapt. Marco spoke up. What about Victor? He's out there somewhere. If he hits us during the assault, then you deal with him. That's why you're staying downstairs. If Victor comes, you hold him off long enough for me to finish. And if you don't finish, Ava met his eyes. Then you run, both of you. Disappear. Let this die with me. That's not acceptable, Sam said. It's the only acceptable outcome if I fail. The broker dies or I do. There's no middle ground. They argued for another 20 minutes, but Ava wouldn't budge. Finally, Sam just shook her head and started checking weapons. You're as stubborn as you were 7 years ago, she muttered. You say that like it's a bad thing. They moved into position 2 hours before sunset. The building was in a quiet square, surrounded by old architecture and tourist shops that were closing for the evening. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Ava watched them from the van, feeling that familiar disconnect. She'd never been one of them, never would be. Chen's voice came through the earpiece. I'm in position, ready to execute the blackout on your signal. Copy, Ava said. She looked at Sam. Last chance to walk away. Shut up and get ready. Ava almost smiled. She checked her weapons one final time. Rifle slung across her back, pistol on her hip, knife strapped to her calf. Body armor that would stop most rounds, but not all. And a certainty that she probably wouldn't leave this building alive. Funny how that didn't scare her anymore. Execute, she said. The lights around the square flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, but it took 3 seconds. 3 seconds of confusion. Ava was already moving. She crossed the square in a dead sprint, hit the building's front entrance as the security systems were resetting. The door was reinforced steel, but the electronic lock was down. She planted a breaching charge, stepped back, detonated. The door blew inward. She went through the smoke, rifle up, and found herself in a marble lobby with 2 guards scrambling for weapons. She shot the first one twice in the chest. The second managed to get his weapon up, but she was faster. He went down. Behind her, Sam and Marco came through, taking positions by the entrance. Ground floor secure, Sam said. Go. Ava hit the stairs at a run. The elevator would be a death trap. Stairs gave her control. First floor. Empty. She kept moving. Second floor. A guard appeared in the stairwell doorway. She shot him without slowing. Third floor. Two guards, better positioned, firing down at her from cover. She rolled behind a concrete pillar and returned fire. One guard dropped. The other retreated. She chased him, caught him reloading, put 2 rounds in his head. Her earpiece crackled. Sam's voice tense. "We've got company. Multiple vehicles. Armed men deploying." "Victor?" "Probably. We're going to be busy down here. Hold as long as you can." "Planning on it." Gunfire erupted from below. Sustained bursts, the sound echoing up the stairwell. Sam and Marco were engaged. Ava kept climbing. 4th floor, the top, the broker's floor. The stairwell door was reinforced, probably bulletproof. She tried the handle. Locked. Of course. She pulled out her last breaching charge, planted it, stepped back. The explosion was deafening in the confined space. The door blew off its hinges. She went through into a corridor that looked more like a corporate office than a criminal headquarters. Polished wood floors, art on the walls, soft lighting, and at the end of the corridor, an open door leading to a corner office. She moved toward it, weapon ready, expecting ambush. Nothing. She reached the doorway and swept the room. Large, expensive, windows overlooking Prague, and sitting behind a desk, completely calm, was a man in his 60s with silver hair and a face she'd never seen before. The broker. He didn't reach for a weapon, didn't move, just watched her with eyes that had seen everything and feared nothing. "Wraith Prime," he said quietly. "You actually made it." "Disappointed?" "Impressed. I had you at 40% probability of success." He gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. I'm good standing. Suit yourself." He poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. "You want to know why I did it? Why I sold out the program?" "I know why. Money, power, the usual reasons." "You're half right. It was about power, but not mine. Theirs." He took a sip. "The Wraith program was supposed to be a tool, precision operators for impossible missions, but you became too good, too independent, too dangerous. The people who created you realized they couldn't control you, so they decided to eliminate you. And you helped them. I facilitated it, for a price, because that's what I do. I'm a broker. I connect people who want things with people who can provide them. And now I want something," Ava said, raising her weapon. "Your death." He smiled. "Go ahead, pull the trigger. But first, answer one question. If you kill me, what changes? The people who wanted you dead will still want you dead. The contracts will still exist. You'll just have a different name at the top of the list. At least you won't be profiting from it. Someone else will. That's how this works. I'm not unique. I'm just efficient." Below, the gunfire intensified. Sam's voice in her ear. "Ava, we can't hold much longer. Whatever you're doing, do it fast." Ava's finger tightened on the trigger. She could end this, right now, put a bullet in the broker's head and walk away. But he was right. It wouldn't change anything. The system would continue. The contracts would persist. She'd still be hunted, unless she changed the game entirely. "You have files," she said, "records. Everyone you've ever brokered for. Every contract, every deal." The broker's smile faded slightly. "Those files would destabilize half the criminal enterprises in the Northern Hemisphere." "Good. And you think releasing them would help you? It would make you the most wanted person on Earth." "I'm already the most wanted person on Earth. At least this way everyone else goes down with me." She pulled out a flash drive and tossed it on his desk. "Copy the files. All of them. Now." "And if I refuse?" "Then I shoot you and take them myself. But that's messy. This way you get to make a choice. Help me burn it all down, or die protecting people who'd sell you out the second it became convenient." The broker studied her for a long moment. Then he picked up the flash drive and inserted it into Piu's computer. "You're more like me than you want to admit. I'm nothing like you. We both understand that survival requires sacrifice, that sometimes you have to destroy everything to save anything." His fingers moved across the keyboard. "The difference is, you still think you're one of the good guys. I don't think anything. I just know I'm tired of running." The file transfer started. Progress bar crawling across the screen. 30%. 40. Gunfire from below was constant now. Sam shouting orders to Marco. Return fire. 50%. 60. The door behind Ava exploded inward. She spun, already firing. Viktor Sokolov came through the smoke, moving impossibly fast for a man his age. Her rounds hit center mass, but he was wearing armor. He closed the distance, batting her rifle aside, driving a fist into her ribs. She went down hard, the wind knocked out of her. Viktor leveled his pistol at her head. Finally, he said. The broker's voice from behind the desk. Viktor, our agreement was... Agreements change. Viktor didn't take his eyes off Ava. Step away from the computer. The broker stood slowly, hands visible. The files don't matter anymore. She's here. That's what matters. Ava tried to stand, but her ribs screamed. Something was broken. She could taste blood. Viktor smiled. 20 years I've waited for this. To finish what Marco started in Chechnya. To prove that I'm the one who survives. Always. You're insane, Ava managed. I'm consistent. There's a difference. He cocked the hammer. Any last words? She looked at the computer. 90%. Almost there. Yeah, she said. You talk too much. She grabbed the knife from her calf and threw it in one motion. Viktor twisted, but not fast enough. The blade buried itself in his shoulder, the gun hand. He fired reflexively. The round went wide, shattering a window. Ava launched herself at him, driving her shoulder into his wounded side. They went down together, grappling. Viktor was stronger, but she was faster. She got her hand on his gun, twisted it away, fired 3 rounds into his chest at point-blank range. The armor stopped them, but the kinetic energy was devastating. Viktor gasped, ribs broken, lung probably punctured. She stood, breathing hard, aiming at his head. Viktor looked up at her with something like satisfaction in his eyes. Do it. Finish it. She almost did. Her finger was on the trigger. One pull and 20 years of ghosts would be laid to rest. But Marco's words came back to her. I put 3 rounds in his chest. Left him for dead. Obviously that didn't work. Killing Viktor wouldn't end anything. It would just add another ghost to the collection. She lowered the weapon. Viktor stared at her. What are you doing? Something different. She turned to the broker, who was watching with fascination. Files done? He checked the screen. Yes. Good. Send them to Chen. He'll know what to do with them. You're making a mistake, the broker said. Those files will destroy you. Then they'll destroy me. But they'll destroy everyone else first. She pulled the flash drive from the computer and pocketed it. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the whole system needs to burn. Behind her, Viktor was trying to sit up. You should have killed me. Probably. But I'm tired of killing people who don't matter. You're not the problem, Viktor. You're a symptom. And symptoms don't die. They just keep coming back until you fix the disease. She walked to the shattered window and looked out at Prague. Sirens in the distance, the sound of her past catching up. Her earpiece crackled. Sam's voice strained. Ava, we're pulling back. Too many of them. You need to exfil now. Copy. On my way. She turned back to Viktor and the broker. Here's what's going to happen. Those files go public. Every contract, every deal, every dirty secret. The people you work for, the people who wanted me dead, they're all getting exposed. And in the chaos that follows, you're both going to disappear. Not dead, just gone. Because if I ever see either of you again, I won't hesitate. You're letting us live? The broker asked. I'm giving you the same choice you gave me. 72 hours. Then the world comes for you. Use it wisely. She walked out, leaving them both alive, both broken, both facing the same impossible odds she'd been facing. The stairs were full of bodies, Viktor's team mostly. Sam and Marco had done serious damage before pulling back. She found them in the ground floor lobby, both wounded but mobile. About time, Sam said, pressing a hand to her bleeding shoulder. I'm getting too old for this. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. They made it to the van and pulled out as police sirens converged on the building. Ava drove fast but not reckless, blending into traffic, taking random turns until she was sure they weren't followed. Chen's voice came through the phone. I've got the files, all of them. This is insane. Do you know what's in here? Everything. Everything. Contracts on politicians, CEOs, intelligence officers, the entire shadow economy laid bare. If I release this, release it. All of it. Let the world see what we've been fighting against. This will start a war. Good. I'm tired of fighting alone. She hung up. They drove to one of Marco's safe houses, an apartment in a quiet neighborhood where nobody asked questions. Sam patched up their injuries with supplies from a first aid kit. Broken rib for Ava. Gunshot wound for Sam, through and through, not serious. Marco had aggravated his earlier injuries but would live. So what now? Marco asked. The files go public, the brokers exposed, Victor's, whatever Victor is. What happens to us? We disappear, Ava said. Really disappear this time. New identities, new lives. Somewhere the fallout won't reach. And you think that's possible? After everything? No, but I'm going to try anyway. Sam was watching the news on her laptop. Chen released the files 10 minutes ago. It's already spreading. Every major intelligence agency is scrambling. The criminal networks are imploding. This is unprecedented. Will it work? Marco asked. Will what work? The exposure. Making them destroy each other instead of hunting her. Sam thought about it. Maybe, if we're lucky, if the chaos is big enough that everyone's too busy protecting themselves to come after us. And if we're not lucky, then we keep fighting. Ava stood at the window looking out at Prague, the city where it had all begun, the city where she'd become someone else. 7 years ago, she'd walked away from this life, buried herself, became nobody. 3 days ago, she'd stepped back into the light and remembered who she was. Now she was walking away again. But this time, it was different. This time, she wasn't hiding from herself. She was choosing what came next. Her phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. She answered. This is Gina, the waitress from the diner. Her voice was shaky but determined. I don't know if you remember me, but I remember. Good. Because I wanted you to know something. What you did that night, saving everyone, stopping those men. I told the police everything. And I told them you were a hero. I don't care what anyone says. You saved my life. Ava felt something crack inside her chest. Not painful, just opening. Thank you, she said quietly. Where are you now? Somewhere else. Are you safe? Getting there. Good. Because the world needs more people like you. People who fight when everyone else runs. Gina paused. They're rebuilding the diner. New owners. Better coffee. Maybe someday you could come back. Have a cup on the house. Maybe someday. Take care, Ava, wherever you are. The line went dead. Ava lowered the phone and found Sam watching her. You okay? Sam asked. Yeah, I think I am. They stayed in Prague for 3 more days, monitoring the fallout. The files Chen had released created exactly the chaos Ava had hoped for. Criminal organizations were tearing themselves apart. Intelligence agencies were scrambling to contain the damage. And in the confusion, 3 people who'd been hunted became just more noise in the signal. On the 4th day, they left. Separate directions, separate lives. Marco headed south, back to his networks, but different now, quieter, smarter. He'd survived by understanding when to fight and when to disappear. Now he was doing both. Sam went west, back to America, to a small town where she could finally retire for real. This time I mean it, she told Ava. No more operations, no more missions, just me and a quiet life. You'll be bored in 6 months. I'll be alive in 6 months. That's enough. Ava went east to a city she'd never been to, with a name she'd never used before. She found work in a bookstore. Quiet, simple. The kind of job where nobody asked questions and nobody expected answers. 6 months later, she was pouring coffee in her small apartment when the news reported that Viktor Sokolov had been found dead in a hotel room in Berlin. Natural causes, they said. Heart attack. She knew better. Viktor had made his choice. And in the end, the world had made his choice for him. 3 months after that, the broker's body was discovered in Prague, shot twice in the head. Execution style. No witnesses, no suspects. The system had eaten its own. 1 year after the diner, Ava received a package. No return address. Inside was a photo of Mel's diner, rebuilt with a sign that read, "Under new management," and a handwritten note from Gina. "Coffee's better, promise. Come visit when you're ready. Ava put the photo on her refrigerator next to a picture of Sam smiling in front of her new house and a postcard from Marco showing a beach somewhere tropical with the words "still breathing" written on the back. She was still breathing too, still fighting in her own way, not against enemies with guns, but against the person she'd been, the ghost who'd hidden for 3 years, afraid to be seen. She'd stepped into the light, and the light hadn't destroyed her. It had set her free. On the anniversary of that night, she took a week off work and drove to the small town where the diner had been rebuilt. She walked in on a Tuesday evening when the place was quiet and sat in booth 7. Gina recognized her immediately. "Coffee? Please." Gina poured, her hands steadier than they'd been a year ago. "It's good to see you." "Good to be seen. You staying long?" "Just passing through." "Story of your life?" Ava smiled. "Something like that." She drank her coffee, which really was better, and watched the world through the window. Normal people, normal lives. A world she'd saved without them ever knowing. That was fine. She didn't need recognition, didn't need gratitude. She just needed to know that when the moment came, when the choice had been between hiding and fighting, she'd chosen to fight. And that choice had made all the difference. She finished her coffee, left money on the table with a generous tip, and walked out into the night. The road stretched ahead of her, dark and unknown. But for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of where it led. Because she wasn't running anymore. She was just living. And living, it turned out, was enough.